Santa Claus. Aho, so high, so low, snowflake, top of the world, Miami, Baghdad, Tombstone. Naming conventions in Arizona were a little different than those of Maryland and Massachusetts and all this stuff on the East Coast. Those were 12 cities in Arizona. And if you put them all together, it sounds kind of weird. Get your mind out of the gutter. But it does really reflect the wild, wild west of Arizona that I grew up in the last 20 years. And I wanted to share a little bit of that uncommon character of a really cool state with you. Again, all 12 of those, three-way, why, yes, Santa Claus. If you put the word Arizona behind each of them, they're all towns in Arizona. One I'm going to go over really quick, Show Low. Kind of a cool town. It's a town now, but it was once a big ranch with a town in the middle. Two ranchers owned the town, basically, and they didn't like each other after a while, so they decided to play cards for poker to see who won the ranch. They didn't want to divide it. And they played all night for poker. When they finally got tired, nobody won. I'm not sure what constituted winning, but in the morning hours, as the sun was coming up, one was tired, said, let's just play one last hand, Show Low. And he handed out one card to the other guy. He picked up one card and the game was over. In the morning, he rode out of town. The other guy promptly went to the middle of his new town and named the main street the Deuce of Spades, which it still is to today. So it's kind of, I mean, and that's a lot of what Arizona's character is about. Arizona was the last of the continental United States that was created. The last one before Hawaii and Alaska. The last continental United States. In fact, they only celebrated its centennial in 2012, which means Arizona is literally 47 years younger than Major League Baseball and only 7 years older than the NFL. If you think of it that way, that's relatively new. Cool, and then Arizona also has a magazine that's explicitly called, it's called Arizona Highways, and it's world renowned. It has photographs, and has anybody ever seen Arizona Highways magazine? Great magazine, and it's exclusively pictures of Arizona. And they broke that tenet about 20 years ago with one, and I can show you the diversity of the state. About 20 years ago, they had one issue. They had 49 states, pictures from 49 other states. And next to each one, there was a picture from Arizona. And the guess was, which one's Arizona, which one's Maine, which one's Arizona, which one's California, which one's Florida. It's hard to tell. There's so much diversity within the state of Arizona. It's a beautiful place. And again, I hope that you guys all get to visit and understand my love for the state as well. One thing that also is kind of fun too is the Wild Wild West approach. You guys have a great understanding of what the Wild West was based on John Wayne and the 300 movies he made, but in the town of Tombstone, which I mentioned a while ago, and there was a movie called Tombstone, as you well know, the OK Corral, the shootout at the OK Corral, overly sensationalized. If you know a little bit about it, the whole gunfight lasted less than 30 seconds, about 30 bullets, a couple deaths. It's really a little bit crazier in Chicago this weekend than it was back then. But you know, with all the sensationalization of what the Wild West was, and it was, don't get me wrong, it's just what you understand to be like an old shootout in the West. It didn't happen as often as you thought, or as harsh as you thought, or as weirdly as John Wayne made it thought out to be. And some other strange facts: 1/3 of the state's land is pretty much given all to the Indians. Being that New Mexico and Arizona were the last two states, a lot of the American Indians were pushed into those two states. So fully 1/3 of the state of Arizona is Indian tribe territory. It's about 12 tribes. The Navajo being the largest part, and pretty much a quarter of the state in the upper right-hand corner is all Navajo Nation. So really nice place to visit. The main industry, besides tourism in Arizona, is cotton and copper. And also, if you ever remember the song London Bridge is Falling Down? That bridge is actually in Arizona now. They relocated it back in the early 1900s. Some guy that owned a town he wanted tourism, Lake Havasu, Arizona. He bought the bridge, piece by piece, had it brought over and rebuilt within Arizona in the late 60s to the early 70s. One of the striking things about Arizona that you guys all know is the saguaro cactus. A little bit about that. It is like the state tree pretty much. The saguaro cactus, at 10 years old, is only about 1.5 inches tall. It's a very slow growing plant. And if you think about, you've seen them majestically in some of the old John Wayne Westerns. They're 75 years old before they sprout their first branch, one of their arms. And if you see an arm that's like 20 to 30 foot tall, you're looking at something that's closer to 400 to 500 years old. They grow about 1 inch to 3 inches a year, depending on the rain. Their root structure is very fibrous, almost like spaghetti. It spreads over acres to bring in the water. And that's why the cactus look like accordion. So when it does rain, it expands with the water, and it sinks during the summer. And lastly, how am I doing? Lastly, the Grand Canyon. It is called the Grand Canyon State, and I've got the good fortune of being able to hike between 200 and 250 miles below the rim of the Grand Canyon. And as grand and as beautiful as it is, it's 277 miles long, and most people go to the national park to see it. There's over 5 million visitors a year. 97% stay at the rim and see about a 7 to 10 mile stretch of the canyon. But you really see more when you go low and when you get inside, and you're seeing the smallest little things. And my voice is going today. So when you get down into the canyon, it's gorgeous, and you can't have campfires below the rim, and you can't do a lot of things because of the nature of the valley and being down in the canyon. But so you get to appreciate some of the smallest things in our lives, to be off the grid. And you can see the stars so well. I mean, in fact, the Grand Canyon is one of the top 10 places in the world to see stars. Literally, you can go down, and we've done this before with some friends. We're like, can anybody spot the Big Dipper? Anybody know what the Big Dipper looks like?
Yes.
Most of you. So we were there one day, and we're looking up at the sky, like, hey, who can see the Big Dipper? It's there. It's like, and we're looking around for minutes. And the gentleman who's in charge, like, it's right there. And sure enough, it was. If you look at it with now 100 stars of nearly the same magnitude, they're right in the middle of the Big Dipper that you can't see from here or most places in the world. The Milky Way is like a cloud every night when you're down there. It's brighter than, it looks like a big piece of fog going over the sky that you can't miss. It's a blast. And for me, the Grand Canyon, I mean, you get down to the Colorado River. Thank you, Colorado. And the massive power of the Colorado River going through. I camped many nights near some of the rapids inside the Grand Canyon, and it's just this awesome power and force of nature that comes through to camp and listen to that all night. It's really a point of peace for me, because as life goes on and I'm away from the Grand Canyon and stuff like that, it's like you have bad days or weird weeks in the tornado of life. And sometimes I can just close my eyes and remember those nights when you can just hear the roar of the Colorado River going down, and knowing that that's, regardless of where I'm at in the world, that's still happening right now. And there's 2 or 3 or 4 lucky campers or hikers that are there today listening and seeing the same thing. It's an awesome sight. And for me, it grounds me. It's like the true north that I can go to once in a while when things are a little crazy. Just close the eyes, listen, you can hear that roar. So for you, I hope someday you get to experience the Grand Canyon or a better part of the state of Arizona. Go have 3-way or Santa Claus or whatever you want in Arizona and enjoy. So thank you for your time.